Here's what happened, guys. A few days ago, a AI robot broke the world record in the half marathon. This happened in Beijing, China. And what we have to ask ourselves is this what we want for the future? Where robots are competing in sports, are involved in every single industry. I think about these over 1,000 industries here in the U.S. for businesses, and are involved in every single aspect of our life. We have to be having those conversations because we as human beings absolutely can put boundaries on AI, and then there can be useful ways that this technology can be used moving forward. These robots could be used moving forward, but we cannot forget that we have the ability to shape the future. We don't just have to adapt to the future and what other people are telling us the future is going to be. And this is where, as small business owners, I do believe America's future leaders are small business owners, and we got to recognize that we can step up and lead by example and push back where things don't make sense. Being curious and asking questions. So welcome back to the show. Happy Thursday. We're going to get into it today about the AI robot breaking the world record in the half marathon. But what I want to do is I want to read a few sections from the Guardian and get your opinion on this, of how you feel reading this, okay, and how you think the average American feels reading this. So let me share them here with you. Okay, we're gonna first start with the headline. So here you go. Here's the headline. Humanoid robots show rapid advances as they race past humans in Beijing half marathon. Okay, so that's one. Let me get you another one here. Okay, so this is another one where a AI-powered robot has beaten elite players at table tennis in a significant achievement for a machine faced with human athletes in a real-world competitive sport. The feat has been hailed as a milestone for robotics, a field that has long seen table tennis and the lightning-fast reactions, perception, and skill it demands as one of the toughest tests of how far the technology has advanced. Okay, so that's another one for you. And then I got one final one I'm going to share with you here. Let me get this up. Okay, and then this is going back to the headline with the AI robot beating the world record. So you go. They can already carry the shopping, cook, and clean. Now they can run and win half marathons. While the living, breathing humans collapsed in a familiar heap on the ground, red-faced, clad in silver foil, blankets, and I can't even pronounce that, fantasizing about a long lunch, the humanoids, interesting word choice, we think about that what we've been used to now for how to describe this form of technology. The humanoids stood tall and unscathed. Some even seemed slightly bored, exchanging looks as if to say, "Shall we go again?" So interesting writing. And then I want to get your take on that. What you let me know in the comments. How do you feel reading about that stuff? How do you feel as a human being? Because one of the clearest areas where we can see human potential and we can see the importance of merit and the value of merit when it comes to, if you're the best, you're going to be recognized as the best. And if you're not performing, then you're not going to be able to continue to play. If that is in different sports, like I think of football, I watch NFL a lot, and I think about that for football teams, where if you aren't performing as a player, then you will be replaced. And what we have to now ask ourselves is, are we as human beings being replaced here? And it's not crazy to bring that up because I'm someone who grew up on Star Wars. I grew up on these movies with robots, iRobot being one with Will Smith, to Elysium is another movie. And within those movies, I really liked them growing up, and I get excited for the advancements in technology. There's that part of me, the kid, thinking back to watching those movies of being like, oh wow, this is happening. This is here. iRobot's a great example of that for a movie. But then now that I've come back to my faith in Catholicism, and as a Catholic looking at this, I can see that goes back to what's going on in our world right now, and there is a spiritual battle that is going on right now. And to think about what's happening here, and specifically focusing on sports, well, what does this do to us as human beings? How do we feel? And what we feel, what can come up for the feeling is it can feel humiliating. It could feel demoralizing. It can feel even dehumanizing and feel like even subhuman, as if this is a superior being, is this robot. Especially with language that's written in the article, that's just like absurd to read through that. It reminds me of like, okay, if you've ever been in one of those games, I remember when I was playing ice hockey in high school, I had one of those games where the other team scored a lot of points on us, a lot. There was a big gap, and when we went back into the locker room, we were really disappointed. We really we were disappointed in our performance, and it felt bad. And when I look at a situation, when I look at something like this happening, where an AI robot beats the world record, we got to ask ourselves, well, what does that do for our own dignity as human beings? Because each one of us is made in the image of God, and so to have this happen, it feels like even a humiliation ritual. It's like a demonic force here, and truthfully, what could be the case is the people that are even building these robots don't understand that, don't actually take the time to see that angle of this, and they can just be excited for the advancements, and it's really cool to achieve something amazing. Thinking back to if it is winning the game or winning the race and putting in the effort and the struggle. But when it comes to AI robots, there's an autonomous factor here that we have to consider that we haven't considered before, where we're taking out the human element in this when it comes to autonomous, hence the word. And so that's where we have to ask ourselves, is this the future we want to live in? And for me, the answer is no. I don't want it where I'm watching a football game and it's all robots. I wouldn't enjoy that. I wouldn't feel as connected to that, to the struggle, to having to put in the effort and the work over years in order to then be able to play in this moment, because you as a human being have put in the effort, put in the time and the sacrifice in order to get to this point. And we connect to that struggle, because through the struggle, and we're able to persevere that struggle, that's where perseverance builds, the endurance builds, and we can connect to that through our lives. We've all struggled in some ways. And so to have this happen, to me, how I look at it is that it creates a dehumanizing effect, and it can create, for those that are not as spiritually strong, it can almost create this thought that this AI is God, or that we have to be human in comparison to the superior being. And my question that would come up is, how many generations is it going to take before people forget that humans actually created AI? And that gets me into, well, what happens to a human being when we feel dehumanized or when we feel subhuman? Well, what happens is then self-hatred builds. And we've got to ask ourselves here in this country, do we feel like we're liking the results right now? In our country, do we do we feel and do we see it around in our country that overall we're doing better than we've been doing over the decades? And there's something in the gut that comes up, and especially with conversations, where the answer is no. That the things don't seem right, that there seems to be more of a struggle. And what happens is when we continue to cause that self-hatred to grow and build, well, then what will happen? We'll be vulnerable. We'll be more vulnerable to influence and control. And as a small business owner, you understand this in the business world, where there can be a lot of evil forces that are out there to try to manipulate people into buying products and services that may not help them actually in the long term, and may be very damaging for their health or for their overall quality of life. But what happens is then the business is able to get to have the short-term gain. But eventually that catches up to these businesses, and eventually in the long term, what can happen is if you're constantly thinking about the short term, in the long term, eventually there's going to be a crash. There's going to be a crash. And when I think about AI, and if it's going to be, if there's a big push for this narrative, and how you could even put it, these different ways to get us to think that this is just inevitably going to be the future, we as small business owners absolutely can push back on that and say, well, this isn't the future I want. I don't want to live in a country where it feels like a dystopian future, and it's hard to go outside and feel safe going outside or walking our major cities at night by ourselves. Like, or having to get into an armored car to go get our groceries. Like, that's not the future that I want. I want to be able to be in a society where there's a high level of trust, and where I don't have to lock my doors at night, where I can go out and be able to walk freely out into the cities. And this is a future that I get excited about, not the future that is a dystopian future. And when we can come together and unite on this and communicate this out to others in our society and our country, we absolutely can make change here. And we're at a current point in history, and you could be seeing that right now with how much momentum is being pumped out there for narratives to say AI is the future. When you see all of that, you notice that massive change is happening right now, but we can channel that change in a different way, in an alternative way. And when it comes to AI, I see the benefits of having a robot, autonomous robot, go and do the really dangerous tasks, the tasks that can cause people to lose their lives for work across our different industries. I think about that with manufacturing or energy production. And then also for those that cannot afford or don't have family to help them out in really tough times, to be able to have our elderly being taken care of as well with robots. Now, I wouldn't want that for all elderly. I don't want all of a sudden us as human beings to stop putting in that effort of making sure we're taking care of our families and taking care of the ones we really love. But that's something to think about, is like, what then becomes the incentives here? What are we telling our future kids? That effort is not that important, that really you have no value as a human being because you could just sit on a couch and the robot's going to take care of everything. Like, these are questions that we absolutely have to have. And we get to decide as human beings what that future is going to be like. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. You absolutely can shape the future. And that comes back to us coming together and understanding, well, where we're going into the future. And so this is a conversation that comes back to, well, how does this world really work? And it's important to remember this view, which is the powerful and the rest of us. Now, the powerful could be different names. It could be the Epstein class, could be globalists, could be the deep state. But it comes back to control over the rest of us. And there is a continuous force moving forward that can feel demonic and is sinister towards more surveillance, towards more control in the name of security, of convenience. And I've said it before that convenience and freedom are incompatible. Technology, I believe, has plateaued. And so now we have to build a new future. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like coming back to our moral virtues, to coming back to courage, to telling the truth, to celebrating those within our society, to doing what is right over what is easy and convenient, protecting our soul, realizing our business reputation isn't worth damaging our soul, remembering the truth that we do have an eternal soul and that we are made in the image of God and that Jesus loves us. When we can remember those things and realize that we actually have a purpose, we have value to provide, our dignity then doesn't get completely destroyed. And we can actually fight for what is beautiful, good, and true about our country. We can voice in opposition when things don't make sense. We can be curious and ask questions and realize we can have an alternative for the future. And this goes back to AI, where I don't see it happening. I don't see it where we need to have a robot in every single aspect of our life, doing every single job that a human being does. And then human beings, what are we left to do? Or are we left to be cattle, to just be shepherded around and put into these, what can feel like a prison or a cage for how we live our life? Well, what's going on right now? What do many Americans feel like right now? Well, there is that feeling of being in a cage or in a prison, or feeling overwhelmed. We have the depression crisis going on in our country, and then we have drug crisis, opioid crisis going on in our country. And when it comes to the mental health and our physical well-being, we got to ask ourselves: do we really like the results that we're seeing in our country? No, there's room for massive improvement, and this country has so much potential, so much potential. There's a fieriness of wanting to make change happen and to move forward and to build a better future for our country. And I do believe America's future is a small business renaissance. I love this country. Having conversations with other small business owners in this country gives me so much hope for the future. But we cannot forget that we can actually shape the future. We don't just have to adapt to it. So I'm going to get more into this with AI. It's an important conversation to have about questions we need to be asking now moving forward and setting the boundaries. And this isn't going to be the last time, I'm sure, that we're going to see these stories coming out online about how robots are just beating humans all the time. And we got to go back to, well, what's going on? What could be going on here? What could be a thing that could be happening here? And it wouldn't surprise me at all if this is a psychological operation in order to make us hate ourselves even more and to dehumanize us, to get to the point where we can become even more vulnerable to influence and control and manipulation. So it would not surprise me if that's the case. And what the signs are looking like right now is that is what's going on at the moment. And so that's my opinion. And we have to push back against this and realize and share with others that there can be an alternative here for the future. So if you are a small business owner who wants to connect with other small business owners in person, who care about this country, then you can join us at A Future Fest, is where you can register, afuturefest.com, and come and build the future of this country. There's, as I said, so much potential in this country, and potential is only limited by our curiosity here. And then from there, putting boundaries on new advancements and new innovation. And really, where I see the innovation moving forward is coming back to our moral virtues and practical wisdom. Self-control is really important and then also think about courage as well, and telling the truth, even when it's really difficult and hard. Continue to do what is right over what is easy and convenient. So excited for that event. It's going to be happening January 14th and 15th, 2027. Let me get it up for you one more time so you have it here. afuturefest.com is where you can register. We're going to have small business owners coming across the country and across industries to connect, so you can get really cool, cool perspectives that can create some amazing innovation within your particular industry. Already got small business owners locally in Charleston and other places like Virginia, Michigan coming for this event, and really excited to plan this to have over 300 small business owners coming together. So excited for that one, and then I will see you guys tomorrow.